an investigation of that attack on that missionary plane that ended up killing that American woman and her baby. Also, as you know, Peru's Air Force shot down this plane thinking that it was part of a drug smuggling operation. Joining us in Washington to piece together exactly what happened in the moments before that plane was shot down is Wayne Madsen. He's a journalist and a former intelligence officer with the National Security Agency. Also joining us is Robert Charles. He is a former chief counsel to the National Security Subcommittee in the House of Representatives. He also was chief counsel to the House Speaker's Task Force on Drugs. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you.
I want to stay away for the moment from the relative merits or problems with the overall surveillance operation and working with the Peruvian military. I really want to get to the moment to the details of what happened, because at 9:43 a.m., as I understand it, was about the time that the CIA surveillance plane got the coordinates and gave it to the Peruvians, and within an hour, this thing had just gone completely south. But there's a very strict protocol. Wayne, is there not?
Well, there's supposed to be a strict protocol, but what I think we're finding out is with the Peruvians involved, a host of U.S. government agencies involved in this war on drugs, and a whole lot of unaccountable private contractors that are also involved in this. I think things, you know, it's a case of there's too many chefs spoil the broth, and this may be a case of that. You know, in the beginning, President Bush said that the pilot, Mr. Donaldson, failed to file a flight plan. But here is the flight plan. The
flight plan was filed, and also when Charles, if I'm not mistaken, the missionary pilot, when he radioed into the town, the radio control tower in the town of Iquitos, he also let the tower know of his plan. But what happened that when the Peruvian military tried to make contact with the missionary plane, apparently they tried on 3 different channels to reach the missionary plane and couldn't get any response. That is mysterious.
Yes, and I think the problem is that you don't know if somebody's radio is working or not, but the U.S. policy of shooting first and asking questions later, I think, is flying earlier.
Wait a minute, wait, Wayne. It's not the U.S. policy. Let's make it very clear that we have not gotten anywhere close to an end of the investigation, and you cannot call it a U.S. policy of shooting first and asking questions later. The question really lies with the Peruvian military. Let me take it to Charles. And Charles, the question again about trying to make radio contact with the American missionary plane, who, of course, had nothing to hide, which had nothing to hide. Why couldn't the Peruvian military raise this missionary plane 3 different times?
Well, I think you have to start out at the very basic level. This is a human tragedy, and I don't think there's anybody in the U.S. government or anybody in the world that looking at this doesn't feel that. I think you also have to recognize these countries, including Peru and Colombia, are really at war. They are at war with organized armies of drug traffickers. What does that mean? That means that in the process of trying to protect their own countries, they have adopted policies, and in Peru's case, a shoot-down policy, that has led to, in this case, a friendly fire accident in a war zone. Now, what exactly happened? I think it is. I think the former speaker really needs to be much more cautious, because we don't know what happened.
Well, but what we do know at this point is that they could make contact over the radio, and under the rules of engagement, the Peruvian pilot should get up close to the missionary plane.
Let me explain the process. Okay. Let me explain the process, because I've been in Quito, and I've done oversight in Pucallpa where these planes are, and I've talked with the pilots in the past. There is a 1-page protocol. It's very detailed, that has to be followed. In fact, the U.S. government has almost nothing to do with this. We provide information just as we do on air traffic all over the country, all over the world, to allies. And in this instance, we typically have a tracker plane that will alert them that somebody's on a flight path that may be a drug trafficking plane. It fits certain basic criteria. It shows up on the screen. We do not have the obligation, and we do not go in for that registration number. That is the A-37s that are flown. There are 2 of them by the Peruvian pilots. It appears, now again, it is premature to reach any conclusions, but based on what's on the public record now, as we continue to clarify that public record, it appears that what happened is that the Peruvian who was flying in the tracker aircraft got into direct conversation with the pilot of the A-37 fighter, which is in fact Charles Lindbergh-style fighter. It is a very old airframe. They fly by compass and radio. They have no other mechanism for finding drug trafficker planes, and apparently told him something, we don't know what, along the lines of getting in closer. At one point, either the fighter pilot himself made the decision to fire, or in concert there was a decision made to fire. And we know only what we know, and that is that there was a firing that occurred. We also know, based on public reports, that our people strongly recommended against that course of action. What will happen now is that they will have to find out whether every aspect of that protocol, and let me say it is very detailed,
right, but
was
we have
followed.
To find out whether every aspect of this was
and it's a very
followed.
Detailed protocol. You have to wiggle your wings.
And the Peruvians are giving a very different story at this point. Gentlemen, I'm afraid we have to leave it there for the moment.
Okay, sure.
But we'd like to have you back on in the days to come, because this will continue to be a story.
The drug war is worth fighting.
Wayne Madsen, Robert Charles, thank you.